Harness Central today comes to you from Mohawk Racetrack, where we're here with trainer Bruce Saunders, who's best known for Rock and Roll Heaven. But first, a word from our sponsor. Okay, we're here with Bruce. It's an early morning workout for Rock and Roll Heaven. He slides across the ground pretty nicely. You were saying, though, you found something interesting when you train him here on the Mohawk track, that like other horses, he finds it a little dicey on one turn.
Well, that first turn is still that 5/8 mile turn, and I think it even comes back a little bit. So most of my horses, even when I was stabled here, when we come out of that turn, they'd float a little bit to the outside, and then straighten out and go down the backside, parallel to the pylons. So first trip out there, I just jogged him a few miles inside and outside the pylon so he could familiarize himself with the environment again. And when I trained him, we had the hobbles on. We weren't going that much into the first turn, but he floated out a little bit, and he straightened right out, and as we finished the mile, we were cruising along pretty good. He was much better the second time around.
Sure slips across the ground nicely.
The pictures that most people get of him really have him airborne. He's very, very efficient with his gait. He drives way up underneath himself. I think that's where he derives a lot of his power from. He's got a terrific overreach, loves his job, but very fluid gaited.
Playing devil's advocate, we both know this game is full of armchair quarterbacks, and there's been some people suggesting you've been really digging into this guy very early, maybe earlier than they think you should. You don't think so, obviously.
Well, we gave that a lot of thought. Our program this year was somewhat restricted by the races that he was eligible to. When we purchased him privately last year, a number of the events during his 3-year-old campaign, we might have liked to have raced him in. We couldn't because there weren't payments made at 2. That in February and March you had to make some payments. For example, we weren't eligible to the Breeders' Crown last year as a 2-year-old. Consequently, we had to make a $10,000 supplemental payment in February to have him eligible this year. So some of the events that maybe we would have been in were not during the course of the year. But I think it'll work in our favor because our races will be spaced out, a couple in July, a couple in August, a few in September. And, we'll be able to go for the duration. As far as getting him ready, I watched the speeds that these 2-year-olds went last year. I thought there were 4 outstanding 2-year-olds, including my colt. Those horses were pacing 49 last year in the classic events. Schnicker's colt went one of the greatest miles anybody's ever seen, I've ever seen, and hardly gets spoken about.
It's one more laugh.
Yeah, one more laugh when he won the Governor's Cup. He came first over, paced a mile in 49-3, back half in 53-1 as a 2-year-old. Casey's colt won the Metro in 49-2 or 3. Sports Writer. Noel Daly's colt, All Speed Hanover, beat Casey's colt here. He's got high speed. My colt has high speed. I know there's 4 horses that were there last year, and I would expect all 4 of them to come back this year. They got put away sound. They're managed properly. I have the utmost respect for all the trainers. So I expect them to be on top of their games when these events come around. So for us, I use kind of the Berries Creek as an opportunity to get my guy stretched out. I thought last year it took him 4 or 5 starts before he really got good. Yeah, he was okay in the Jersey Sires and won that, but the level of the competition wasn't much. When he came up here for the Metro, I thought that kind of was a breakout race for him. And I just felt like for him, even though he's not big in stature, he's pretty well muscled, and I just thought he needed 3 or 4 starts. And I think I'm right. We'll never know until we look in the rearview mirror. If he gets beat, which he's going to get beat, they're all going to get beat because the crop is way too deep and way too talented. It could be because of bad racing luck. But after 9 starts last year, when we put him away at Lexington, 9 starts, maybe 4 qualifiers, 13 program lines, he was fresher, fitter, healthier, happier than he was when we started. So I don't think as a 3-year-old having 6 months off, we stopped in October. A lot of these guys went on a little earlier. We stopped in October. So we were able to get started earlier, and I don't think it'll have any negative effect on his performances.
The so-called experts have also commented that he's too small. You've been very dismissive of that right from the get-go, and you said to me in an interview we did earlier this year that if we use the Red Mile as an example, when he hits the area where the tunnel used to be, that they always say separates the men from the boys, he didn't know there was any tunnel ever there.
No, he was airborne. I mean, he came home. It wasn't a perfect day. It was a little cool. There was a little bit of a breeze. I think he paced his last quarter in 25-4 and 1 mile in 50-2, which was a track record for 2-year-olds at Lexington. A lot of that went unnoticed. I don't even think they knew it, the photographers, till I asked them when they got the picture. Nick Salvi called it to my attention. And Dubé said sheepishly when he come back, he said, Bruce, he said, I could have gone a lot more. He said, I didn't want to get this colt beat. He said, but I'd shut him off going down the backside. He could have paced 49 apiece today. So, size, you saw how he traveled the ground today. He's big gaited. He covers the ground fluidly. We've seen a lot of horses over the years that haven't been big and strong and strapping. It's the thing that you can't measure is what's the size of the heart and the determination, and I think that's what separates him from any other horse that I've had.
So as we go into the Burlington and subsequently North America Cup, you feel you've got him right where you want him?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, he can get beat in all these races because it's a horse race. Whether he's the favorite or not, 40% of the favorites win, so that means 60% of the favorites are getting beat. So, as I say, every race is another hand of cards. You play the hand you got dealt, but I'm not concerned. If anything, I'm concerned that he didn't race last week, missed a week. I trained him a pretty stiff mile at home at the Meadowlands Saturday. I just blew him out a little bit here, which is what I ordinarily do. But I think, everybody has their eye focused on the prize, and the prize is on the 29th in North American Cup. So the Burlington be a great acclimating experience for him, get around the racetrack. Next week in the eliminations, it's going to be important that we draw well and have some racing luck. But like everybody else, we're all looking at the 29th, the NA Cup.
Frank Bellino owns the horse. You train the horse. Have either of you received any nibbles for stud interest?
Oh yeah, there's been some inquiries. Even last year, there were some people that wanted to get involved with the colt, buy a portion, whatever. Mr. Bellino's 75. I've had horses for him for 4 or 5 years now. He loves to race horses. It'd be a new experience for him racing a classic colt. And he said, you know what? He said, I want to take this ride myself. He said, don't want to have to be concerned with, as a 2-year-old, being concerned with other people's feelings and where we should race him and how we should race him. He said, between you and I, we'll muddle our way through. And, if our colt's good enough, we're lucky enough, it'll work out fine. He's got great karma, Mr. Bellino. I have that colt because of his intuition. He saw a picture of this horse after his first baby race last June at Scioto. The USGA website, I had a picture of him. He won his baby race 59 apiece. And he called me that day. He said, boy, I saw great looking 2-year-olds. I didn't know they were going this early with him. I liked that colt. And it was Roy O'Hagan, who I purchased my old friend John from the year before. And Roy called me about an hour later and told me that he wanted to sell that colt and another one. And we watched him go the next week. He went in 57 apiece on the front end, a big last half. Mr. Bellino called me again. He said, I really like that colt. I want that horse. I said, Frank, he wants a lot of money for that horse. He said, well, you go look at him. If you like him, we're buying him. So I went out there a couple of days later and trained the 2 of them with Roy and had them vetted out, and everything seemed fine. So I called Frank back and said, I like the colts. I said, the Rock and Roll's a little on the small side. The other horse was a Cambest colt. I said, he's nowhere near the quality, but I can't fault them. So he got on the phone with Roy and they negotiated a deal. Took a lot of courage. Nothing to go on other than his intuition, his instincts when he saw that horse.
Bruce, we'll see you in the winner's circle.
I sure hope so. Thank you, Harold.
Okay. This is Harold Howe with Bruce Saunders giving you the Harness Racing Edge.